Hello, welcome back. I'm Abhishek De Silva, an undergraduate of the JAM Institute for Advanced Technology.
Welcome back with the project named eShop, and today I'm going to discuss about the program of the product purchasing process through the PayHere payment gateway. So now I'm in the home.php file. If I click on the buy now button, we will directly to the single product view page, and now if I click on the buy now button here, we can see that the payment process is taking place. Here I'm using the PayHere payment gateway. If I showed you the relevant PayHere payment gateway, here is the website of the PayHere payment gateway, and I'm using the knowledge base or the sandbox. So through this sandbox and testing, they have provided us some card numbers. So then I will copy this card number. I'm choosing the Visa card and I'm pasting the card number, and I'm giving a name of the card as ABC, and we can see that the payment is successful, and alert is displayed as the payment completed, and they are displaying the order ID also. So let's discuss about that program. So then let's move to the Visual Studio Code. Here now I'm in the single product view.php file. Here for the buy now button, I have given the type as submit, and I have given ID as PayHere dash payment, and then I have called a function called pay now on the click of this button, and I have sent a parameter through this function by sending the PID of the product as the parameter. Here we have to include the script of the PayHere payment gateway. We can get from their documentation. If I showed you through this knowledge base, and we are using the JavaScript SDK for this, and there's that relevant script code. Let's move to JavaScript file to discuss about this pay now function. Here I have obtained the parameter and store that in a variable called ID here, and then I have obtained the ID with the element quantity input, and I have obtained the value of that and store that in a variable called quantity, and then I have created a new XML HTTP request and stored in a variable called request here, and then after that I have called an anonymous function on each change in state of this request, and then I have checked whether the status is equal to 200 and the ready state is equal to 4, and if so, I have obtained the response text sent by server side, and then I have stored that in a variable called response. I will discuss about the remaining part inside this if condition later. And here we have used the open function, and we have sent the information through the get method to the buy now process.php file, and here I have binded the ID that we have obtained as the parameter with the by the name ID here, and also the quantity that we have obtained as the quantity. And here I have mentioned true to represent that I'm using the Ajax method, and I have sent the request to the server side. So then let's move to buy now process.php file. In the buy now process.php file, at first I have opened the PHP script, and I have used the session start here, and then I have included the connection.php file, and after that I have checked whether a session by the name u is set, and if not, we can see that we have echo a value as 1, and then if the session by the name u is set, if so, we are coming into this if condition, and we can see that we have obtained the ID that's sent through the get method by the client side, and we have stored the in a variable called ID here, and similarly we have obtained the quantity sent through the get method and stored the in a variable called quantity, and then we have obtained the email that's stored in the session by the name u and store that in a variable called umail here. And then here I have created an array or the variable called array, and then I have stored a unique ID or the unique ID function. I have called the unique ID function, and I have stored the relevant unique ID in a variable called order ID, and after that I have called a search function with the query as select all from product table, where id equals to the id that we have obtained and storing the relevant results we get back from the database in a variable called product results set here. And after that, I have obtained the results that stored in the product results through the fetcher, so I can store the in a variable called product data. And after that, I have again called the search function with the query select all from the user has address table where user email equals to the user mail that we have obtained, and storing the relevant results that we get back from the database in a variable called city results here. And then I have obtained the number of rows in it and stored the number of rows in a variable called city num here. And after that, through a if condition, I have checked whether the city num is equal to 1. If so, I have obtained the relevant results in this city results through the fetcher, so I can store that in a variable called city data. And then after that, I have obtained the city id that's stored in this city data and store that in a variable called city id here. And after that, I have obtained the line 1 and line 2 that's stored in this city data and store that in a variable called address. And then I have again called a search function with the query select all from the city table where city id equals to the city id that we have obtained. And then I have stored the relevant results we get back from the database in the variable called district results set here. And then I have obtained the relevant result that's stored in the district results set through the fetcher soak and stored in a variable called district data. And then I have obtained the district array that's stored in this district data array and stored that in a variable called district id. And then I have created a variable called delivery and I have stored the value as 0. And then through an if condition, I have checked whether the district id is equal to 2. If so, we are obtaining the delivery fee Colombo that's stored in this product data and store that in a variable called delivery that we have created earlier. And then if it comes to the else part of this if condition, it means the district id is not equal to 2. Then we have obtained the delivery fee other that's stored in this product data and store that in a variable called delivery here. And after that, I have obtained the title that's stored in this product data and store that in a variable called item. And after that, I have done a calculation here. The calculation is I have obtained the price from the product data and also the quantity. I have converted the relevant value that we have obtained into int value, and then I have multiplied the price that we have obtained by the quantity. And then I have added the delivery or the value that's stored in this variable called delivery, and I have stored the result we get from this calculation in a variable called amount. And then I have obtained the first name of the user or the first name that's stored in this session by the name u and store that in a variable called f name here, and also the last name that's stored in this session and store that in a variable called l name here. Similarly, the mobile and store that in a variable called mobile. And then I have obtained the address, the value that is stored in this address, and store that variable called user address here. And after that, I have obtained the city name that's stored in this district data and store that in a variable called city. Here we are obtaining the values, or we are creating the values that we need to send to the JavaScript file, as we have to provide these information to the PayHere payment gateway. In the SDK, they have provided us that they need the merchant ID, return URL, cancel URL, notify URL, and the first name, last name, email, the other remaining things. So we are creating those things here. I have obtained the merchant ID or the ID they provided us. Here is the PayHere sandbox, and we can get the relevant merchant ID from the integrations. And here we can see here is the merchant ID, and here we can create the domain or app. Here I have created several domains, and I have obtained one of these merchant secrets as the merchant secret here. So then I have created a variable called currency, and I have stored the currency as LKR here. And then I have obtained this hashtag or the hash value creating code from the PayHere payment gateway. Here they have provided us the relevant code creating the hash value. Here they have provided us the PHP code sample for hash value, and then for the array that we have created earlier, I have stored the all data through the names, such as I have stored the order ID by the name ID to the array, and also the item to the array by the name item, and also the amount by the name amount, and also the first name by the name if name, similarly the L name by the name L name, and then the mobile, user address, city, user mail, merchant ID, merchant secret, currency, and also the hashtag with the relevant names. And then I have encoded these to an JSON object. The array that we have created, I have encoded that to a JSON object, and I have encoded the relevant JSON object to the client side. If the city num of these that we earlier we checked whether the city num is equal to 1, and if so, we discuss the process taking place inside that, and if the city num is not equal to 1, we can see that we echo a value as 2 here. So then let's again move to JavaScript file. I have obtained the response text sent by the server side, and so the in a variable called response here, and as the response sent by the server side is a JSON object, I have passed that JSON object and stored that in a variable called object here, and I have obtained the user method stored in these object and stored that in a variable called mail, and also the amount is stored in this object and stored that in a variable called amount. And here I have checked whether through an if condition whether the response is equal to 1. That means there is no session by the name used, so we have alert a message as please login, and also we have redirected the user or the client or the customer to the index.php file. And through an else if condition, we have checked whether the response is equal to 2, and if so, we have added a message as please update your profile. And then we have redirected the user to the user profile.php file, and then if it comes to the else of this if condition, here we have used the code that we obtained from this PayHere payment gateway website. Here is the relevant sample code that they have provided us. Inside this script tags, we have obtained the whole code here inside this script tag, and I have pasted that here. In addition to that relevant code, I have used an alert, and I have displayed a message as the payment completed, and also the order ID that we have obtained, and here I have displayed the order ID that's stored, the value that's stored in this order ID variable. And then as the values of these, I have provided the merchant ID that's stored in this object, and also I have given the return URL as the same URL the URL of the single product view page, and I have given the same URL to the cancel URL also, and then I haven't given any notify URL. The notify URL is the default URL that they have provided. And then as the order ID, I have used the ID that's stored in this object, and as the item, I have given the item that's stored in this object, and also as the amount, I have provided the value that's stored in this amount variable, and also as the currency, I have given the currency as LKR, and also as the hash value, I have provided the hash value that's stored in this object, and also as the first name, I have provided the first name that's stored in this object, and similarly for the last name, I have provided the last name that's stored in this object. And then for the email part, I have provided the value that's stored in this mail, and also for the phone, I have provided the mobile that's stored in this object, similarly the address that's stored in this object, and the city that is stored in this object for the address, and also the city. And as the country, I have given the value as Sri Lanka, and as the delivery address, I have given the address that's stored in this object, and then as the delivery city, I have given the city that's stored in this object. So this is the process of the PayHere payment gateway that taking place when purchasing a product. So then let's meet in the next video, and bye.